Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you, coming at you with another crafting guide for the new selection pack, the Drastic Storm. As we always do when new packs release, we're going to take a look at all of the new UR cards and be evaluating them for their respective decks. How many copies you'll need, how good each of those cards are, and what all they'll be used in. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right on into it. Radiant Typhoon Phoinix, the Great Flame, is the boss monster of the new Radiant Typhoon archetype, which is of course based around Mystical Space Typhoon. So this card is a pretty solid endboard piece that you're going to be seeing a lot of on the endboard of Radiant Typhoon. That being because it can target up to 2 cards the opponent controls and shuffle them into the deck when any quick play spell is activated. So Radiant Typhoon not only benefits, of course, from Mystical Space Typhoon, but a lot of other archetypes that have quick play spells, like Runic. You could also use it with that as well as just other like engines like Fiendsmith. I know that Radiant Typhoon Yummy is also a thing. For this card in particular, you only need a single copy, so it's a good thing it's taking up one of the UR slots, in all honesty. Like I said, it's going to be part of your end board, but it's also really searchable, so like I said, you'll just need the one for this deck. As far as how good Radiant Typhoon is going to be, I think it'll land somewhere around tier 2 or 3. The deck has in the TCG recently won a YCS, but of course it's always important to consider that TCG and Master Duel have very different ban lists. And with the current power level of decks in Master Duel, I think it'll be towards the lower end of tier 2, maybe upper tier 3, but somewhere in that range for sure. Radiant Typhoon Eldam is a new support card for the Radiant Typhoon archetype. When summoned, it lets you add any Radiant Typhoon monster or Mystical Space Typhoon from deck to hand, and like the other Radiant Typhoon monsters, can be special summoned while either you have Mystical Space Typhoon in the graveyard or your opponent controls no spell or trap cards. So this is going to be a pretty obvious 3 of for the Radiant Typhoon deck. It's one of your starters, and it's an important consistency tool. I don't really know if there's much else to say about this card in particular. How it functions for the deck, I think seems pretty obvious on the surface. As far as how good of a deck Radiant Typhoon is going to be, I think it'll be lower tier 2 to upper tier 3. In the current meta, there are just a lot of decks out there in the like upper tier 2 or tier 1 status that just outpower Radiant Typhoon. The deck has seen some recent success in paper play. However, it's important to consider how different the ban lists are in the respective formats. But I don't think Radiant Typhoon will be that bad of a deck at all, and it will definitely make for some interesting gameplay. So if you're looking to pick up that deck, you'll definitely want a playset of this card. Shiina, the twin Tempests of Celestial Thunder, is an honorary Radiant Typhoon card, but really it supports any wind-based deck, as it has a quick effect. When your opponent activates a card effect while you control a wind monster, you can special summon it, and then you can either bounce all monsters or back rows based on what you chained to. So this is a pretty important tool to have as a bit of a hand trap for, wind-based decks. It is also a bit of a going second tool, even though it's a hand trap, right? Because you do have to control a wind monster. Although, if you can get a wind monster out on the field on your opponent's turn 1, which is increasingly getting easier and easier to do in Yu-Gi-Oh!, then it could be used as a turn 1 hand trap as well. Either way, for Radiant Typhoon, you're definitely going to want this card for your deck. Really anywhere between 1 and 3 I think could be good, but you could also include this in any wind-based strategy, because it doesn't even lock you into wind. As long as you are consistently ending on a wind monster, you can consistently use this card to bounce your opponent's boards. Radiant Typhoon Vision is a quick play spell card that's part of the new Radiant Typhoon archetype, but this card can actually be splashed in a lot of engines, either by itself or in turn with more Radiant Typhoon cards. And it's a lot of the reason why you'll see, a certain amount of Radiant Typhoon crossover builds. But the main draw of this card is, of course, the fact that you can draw 2 and then discard any quick play spell card from your hand. If you don't do that, you have to discard your entire hand, somewhat similar to Allure of Darkness and its condition of having to banish a dark monster after the draw. It's important to note that you draw the 2 and then you discard a quick play spell. So obviously this is going to be good as a 3 of in Radiant Typhoon, which is, obviously going to be based around the Mystical Space Typhoon, which is a quick play spell. But not only that, you can even use it, like I said, independent of Radiant Typhoon altogether. This card is seen play in Mitsurugi, it's seen play in Yummy. Sky Striker loves this card, right? Sky Striker definitely loves to draw cards, and it has a lot of quick play spells that it wouldn't mind getting into the graveyard. Even Goblin Biker, with its quick play spell cards like Grand Entrance, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but it's there. I think they have another one anyway. Yeah, no, Radiant Typhoon Vision is an absolute 3 of, like I said, not only for Radiant Typhoon, but for a lot of decks. Anything that plays a critical mass of quick play spells will definitely look to play 3 copies of this card. Gouki the Tyrant Ogre is the new fusion boss monster for the Gouki archetype. It actually encompasses all of the archetypes that I've never seen Vrain, so I don't know the name of the character who uses it. But its fusion materials can be a Gouki Link monster plus a warrior, dinosaur, or cybers, representing the Dino Wrestler, Gouki, and G-Golem archetypes, which are all kind of around the same character. I'm aware of that much at least. But as far as like how good this card and the follow-up Gouki support is, I can't lie to you, it's really not great. I tried to, whenever I do these videos, I always do research to try to figure out, you know, obviously how many of each of these copies you need for this deck, and also how good it is, right? And I really couldn't find anything for Gouki in my research, nothing substantial as far as like tournament results go. So I think that this is going to land towards like the lower end of the rogue spectrum. I mean, this card's effect, the ability to target a bunch of cards in the field and destroy them, really at the end of the day is not that impressive. Even if you do use a Link 3 monster and it's it can't be responded to, it's still like not that bad. Like, it's fine. I don't know. I think that Gouki needed a lot in order to catch up with the current meta, and this fusion monster I don't think is going to be enough. Like I said, I'm going to put it towards the lower end of Rogue. DoomZ XII End-Drastrius is one of the new Xyz boss monsters for the DoomZ archetype, which continues the Medius the Pure lore archetypes, of which the last one was Archmage. So, as far as DoomZ goes, for the time being, it's not going to be like necessarily the most impressive deck. I'll put it in upper rogue. I think it's fine. It's not bad. But really what we're waiting for is the power patron support. That'll probably end up following, you know, all the other Medius the Pure lore archetypes. Once that comes out, DoomZ gets a lot better. So if you are interested in playing DoomZ, even in the future, when it gets a lot stronger, would highly recommend picking up these cards now. But like I said, Upper Rogue is definitely not bad at all for an archetype to land on its first wave. As far as this card goes, you can really play any number between 1 to 3. Most builds I found, I'm pretty sure, leaned towards playing 1. But, like I said, I found a lot of builds between 1 to 3. It's worth noting that the DoomZ archetype does, or not archetype, but the builds that I found, they do seem to tend to play a lot of Archmage cards because of the synergy, of course, with Medius the Pure. So, you will be needing some Archmage URs as well as the DoomZ URs here. But like I said, you can play any number between 1 to 3. So if you only pull 1 and you need to craft some Archmage stuff, you could start with that and just see how you like the deck and go from there. Jupiter, the Power Patron of Destruction, is another one of the boss monsters for the upcoming DoomZ archetype. It is technically a Power Patron card, but of course it also supports DoomZ. And this card seems to be played as a one-of in most builds. I did find a couple that weren't on it, but honestly it seems like a pretty standard go-to, I think. This card has a pretty powerful effect of obviously being able to detach a material and summon DoomZ cards, also popping stuff. That's how it ties into the archetype. But moreover, it gains 3k attack while it has an Xyz monster as a material. And it already starts at 3,500, so swinging in for 6,500 damage can very easily steal a lot of games, right? Of course, you can summon this using an Xyz monster by using one of your equipped Power Patron DoomZ cards, with the DoomZ not only being an Xyz, but also an equip-based archetype. So yeah, like I said, I think that this card is really solid. You'll definitely want to play a copy of it in your DoomZ decks. seems somewhat optional, but again, most builds I found were on 1, so I'd recommend it. And overall, I think DoomZ will be upper rogue for now until the follow-up Power Patron support comes out. Then it's going to look a lot better. DoomZ XII Zero-Drastea is an important card for the upcoming DoomZ archetype, which is of course continuing off of Archmage and Medius the Pure's lore. So this card, from what I can tell in my research, is pretty much always played as a 2-of in the DoomZ deck. It is a pretty important tool for getting out your DoomZ Xyz monsters, but it's also very, very searchable through all of the various support for both DoomZ and also, in a lot of ways, just the Power Patron stuff in general. DoomZ will be an upper rogue deck for the time being, but of course always important to note that once the Power Patron follow-up support comes out, the deck becomes a lot better and will possibly even be tiered at that point. But for the time being, like I said, if you're interested in trying out DoomZ in particular, you'll definitely want to get a couple of copies of this card for your deck. Crimson Blader Assault Mode is going to be one of the new UR cards for the Assault Mode archetype, which is actually getting a lot more consistent with cards like this. See, Crimson Blader Assault Mode has an in-hand effect, which makes it actually useful to have even if you're not able to summon it out, unlike a lot of the other Assault Mode monsters. By revealing this card, you can add an Assault Mode activate, or more importantly, a card that mentions it from your deck to your hand. We've actually already seen Assault Mode used as an engine in like more generic synchro, like 60 card pile decks, right? And this definitely looks to make not only that a lot more consistent, but also pushing Assault Mode more towards its own archetype. That said, I think this is still really going to shine in pile decks more than anything else. I really don't know if I can rate those any higher than lower rogue, to be totally honest with you, though. Yeah, I think that while this could be a very good consistency tool, we've already seen the Assault Mode engine outpaced in a lot of ways. I'd argue even by the Adventure engine way back in 2022. And while the support will definitely help it, I don't think it's going to be enough to make it a tiered threat. Nightwinged Cleric is a synchro monster that's part of the new Assault Mode support. It's actually kind of cool to see Assault Mode get its own synchro monster that's independent of a pre-existing one, like with all the other ones, of course. So this card is useful, like other Assault Mode support, not only within its own archetype, but in a lot of pile decks that want to use a lot of synchro summoning. This card in particular does actually lock you into synchro summoning when it activates its second effect. When it's special summoned, you can just set an Assault Mode activate straight up from your hand, deck, or graveyard, but then by discarding a card, you can either add to hand or summon a monster that mentions Assault Mode activate, which of course is going to include the Psychic monster that's level 1 that I'm forgetting the name of. Oh, let's see here. It is called Psy Reflector, that's what it is. I did not remember that, I did look it up. But yeah, so Nightwinged Cleric is a good start to that engine. But that engine is a little bit outclassed, to say the least, by a lot of other engines that you could be playing even within 60 card pile decks. That said, if you are interested in that kind of pile deck and or trying out Assault Mode as its own archetype, I would definitely pick up a copy of this card. But I think those are going to be lower rogue overall in power level. And we have a new Dominus trap card coming in this set as well, Dominus Spiral. So I'm just going to tell you straight up, this card is not anywhere near as good as the other Dominus trap cards. Honestly, it's going to be the weakest of them. This card really has two major problems kind of going against it. The first being that the effect really isn't that strong in the grand scheme of things. Like, bouncing a monster as a hand trap by itself is really powerful, but then your opponent gets to summon a monster from the graveyard, which makes it a lot less appealing, right? If you're trying to disrupt the opponent by getting rid of a body that they can combo with, they can probably combo with whatever they revive. You could try to use it on an end board piece, assuming it doesn't have a negate, but then your opponent still gets one of the bodies they used to make it, or put something even better out of their graveyard, and they might be able to just make that monster again. Since again, it's not going to the graveyard, it's going back to the hand or extra deck. So yeah, I think that not only there's that issue, but also the fact that this card locks you out of light and dark effects when used from the hand, which the vast majority of Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks are going to be on one of those two attributes. It's really hard to cut both from your deck. From what I could tell in my research, this card is pretty much only used in Odeon, and even then, not the majority of the time. However, I don't know. Because it is used in Odeon sometimes, which is, I think, a tier 2 deck still, I guess I'll put this card in tier 2, but I don't know. I might even just bump it down to tier 3, even if I think Odeon as a deck is overall better than tier 3. Like I said, this card you're just not using in Odeon a lot of the time, and again, from what I can tell, that's the only deck that wants to use this card. For now, I mean, there could be another deck that comes along at some point in the future that wants this kind of effect, this kind of hand trap, and doesn't use light or dark effects, but I would say that you just don't need this card unless you're playing exactly Odeon, and even then, you can definitely get away without it. And that is gonna do it for our coverage of the Drastic Storm Selection Pack. As always, really hope that you found this information helpful, and really appreciate you watching the entirety of the video. It really does help out smaller channels like my own. But like I said, that's gonna go ahead and do it for now, so let us now move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.